Right. Thank you, Shiro, for coming to speak to me. And you're going to tell me more about your mom who was blind. As you know, I'm raising awareness in Kenya about the blind and how we can help them. At the moment, I'm trying to get an embosser, which is what they call embosser, is a braille photocopier where they can copy books, newspapers into this big machine. It's a very expensive machine. So I've got my charity gala on the 7th. But really, I wanted to hear more about stories and journeys of anyone who has got a blind family member or a friend. And since you approached me, I say thank you very much. And I would like to hear more about the journey of your mom. And thank you so much, by the way, for coming to this.
Thank you for the invitation, Wambui. It's my pleasure to be here. And when I saw your Fanaka Foundation, and it has been a dream of mine to actually do something like that, but it's not been my time yet. And it is your time, and it is your time that you have. It's a noble thing that you're going to do. What my mom became blind in 1991, and it was because of she had a brain tumor, and it suppressed her optical nerves, so she just became blind just one day. But my mom was blind physically, but nothing else about her was blind. She was the most amazing woman I have ever known. If I would have a quarter of my mom's strength and faith, especially her faith, we say that the father of faith is Abraham, but my mother was a mother of faith. Because through it all, she just came home one day, and in Kikuyu she said, Gai decide kumomudhidirionagana maitho ma roho not ma mwiri. And we were very young that time, and she said that from today onwards she will only see with the eyes of the heart and not the physical eyes. And she became blind, but after a few days she enrolled herself in Machako School for the Blind, and my father thought that this woman was going bonkers, because how do you just come and tell your husband, next week I'm going to be a Buddha in Machako School for the Blind. She has just become blind, for crying out loud sake. She doesn't even know. But she was determined to continue working as a nurse, firstly, and she said it was her journey. And it's because God had decided that her journey from now on is going to be blind. So she decided to go to Machako School for the Blind, and she did braille and did everything, and learned how to use the stick, and she learned how to her mobility, especially as a blind person, because she had never been blind before. And she made so many friends. She met two ladies who did not have somewhere to live, so she carried them with her when they finished. It was about a year, 9 months to a year. And she came home with them. Then after some time, my mom went back to work as a nurse. But nobody ever thought she was blind, because her eyes were just like mine and yours. And as for me and my brothers, we used to think that somebody who goes blind, their eyes have to shut, because how can you go blind and your eyes are still wide open, just like mine. But then her senses, my friends used to come home and she'll tell them, Lina, Jesh, whoever, and they were like, oh my God, are you sure this woman is not saying it? She continued to cook, so it was amazing. And sometimes when you're not as quick to take her to her friend's house, you'll find she's gone on her own, and she'll find her way to her friend's house. So that time is when I realized that disability doesn't really mean inability, because she was not unable to continue with your life. Though I cannot minimize the stress of it. All of a sudden, you're thrown into this world whereby you have always depended on your eyes to see things through life. But now it's a dark world. You don't know what to see or how to see what to see. Maybe it's easier for somebody who has never known being sighted, but it's harder for somebody who's been sighted to really lose their sight. There are many women, and Professor Sunday, who was her neurologist from Aga Khan, actually used to bring some young people who have gone blind because of different reasons. Yeah. Some she cancelled, and others took their life really because it was too hard for them, especially for young girls who had never been married. And then, I mean, as you know, our Kenya, you can imagine back then, 30 years ago, they were not tolerant with people with disability. So they lost their jobs on the spot. My mom was lucky enough, her employer never, sacked her. She continued and went back to work, and she worked hard, and she continued to the day God called her home. And what I would say, she was really passionate about blind people, and she joined the Kenya Society for the Blind, and she was also in the union, and she used to visit blind people, people who have been struck by blindness, especially in their old age. I mean, when they're or in their youth and childhood, because she could understand that what trauma they are going through. And then families were also not. Some families were not acceptable because they never accepted these people because they thought, what are we going to do with a blind person? It's like you've become useless. As for us, when you came to our home, you would not realize that my mom was blind because she joked about her blindness. She used to call herself Gatumumu, Nekaroka, and she never, one day, I never saw my mom down one day because of her blindness. No, and she took it because of her faith. Her faith was so strong that it took her and pulled her through so many tragedies in her life. She died at a tender age of 50. Now I know that it was tender. Those days I used to think she was very old when she died. But to her dying day, she was strong. And it would be my pleasure to even work with you, Wambui, and help out where I can, when I can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's when I spoke to you about what I was planning to do and my passion for the blind, and you gave your story of your mom, but also for me, I got very inspired by your mom, that straight away, she knew she had to do something about her blindness by going to Thika School for the Blind. She's already had children, and yes, I can understand her husband thinking
School for the Blind.
Thika School for the Blind, Machakos School for the Blind. But to me, it just shows a woman who was not going to be stopped by anything. She was determined to live her life, and as long as there is a support, as long as there is centers that would support her, she went for it. So I really thank her for that, and really admire her for that. And I wish I would have met her, because I have met some wonderful people since I put the post on Facebook to ask if you have a family member. But there's just been really inspiring stories of the blind. And I want to hear more, and I want to see, okay, so why then do we have others that are not doing as well? Is it because of the support, the love in the home? You have covered a bit of that. You've said some did not get support from the houses because it's seen as a stigma. But let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do, Shiru. And I think personally, we need to bring more awareness of the blind.
True.
I do it here through a volunteering organization called West Hearts Vision Loss. We even do walk a mile in my shoes. You get blindfolded and you have to walk a mile just to feel that. And I tell you what, by the time you get on the other end of that 1 mile, you're actually in tears. So for somebody who was seeing like your mother and then having lost her sight, the trauma, I'm sure she needed counseling as well, because all of a sudden
But counseling in Kenya was not there.
It wasn't there. That is why she had to find other ways of helping herself.
Oh, how she counseled herself, I think her faith counseled her.
It's her faith.
Yeah, so because she was a believer. She was a very strong believer. And her belief was not shakeable. Me, I've never seen somebody who was unshakable like my mother. To be honest, people say it could be a cliche or whatever, but it's not. Because for her, imagine going to a boarding school whereby it's for young people as young as her children. And she's going to board and stay in the dormitories. You know the dormitories in Kenya, really.
Yeah.
And she's staying with them. And she's not hearing anything about it. You're telling her, okay, no, my dad kept saying, no, why don't you go to Thika? Then I can be dropping you. She said no.
She wanted the best.
Yes. And, well, she got her braille and everything, and she went back to work.
You see?
And she could read with using braille, you know.
Where was she working at that time?
She was a nurse with the city council, and she was working. That time she had just started working in Umoja Clinic.
Wow.
Yeah.
So thanks to Umoja Clinic that they accepted her. In most organizations, corporate, she would have been out.
City council were just the best employers ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
because they well understood everything, and they talked to her, and she told them her journey, and they accepted her. Yeah.
We thank God for her life.
We do.
We thank God for her life, and may the Lord continue keeping her in peace,
Amen.
watching over Shiru and the rest of the siblings and their grandchildren now.
Yeah.
So we just thank you. Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you very much.
And if you don't mind, I will be sharing it out. I will get clips and I just want to hear these inspiring stories about the blind.
And at least if it can uplift just one
person.
person.
It will uplift
just one person.
Yes.
Not even many, just one person.
It will.
And create awareness. Because I have realized, like, amongst my Kenyan friends, there are very, very many people I have spoken to about blindness who have never seen a blind person.
Every time I go to play a charity game to raise this money, because I need almost 17,000 plus shipping, almost 20,000 pounds, I always ask, has anyone got a family member who is blind? Nobody puts their hands up. But the interesting thing, some of them will come on the side and tell me, by the way, my mom is blind.
And it's
so there's still a stigma.
So you are also stigmatizing your own family.
Yes.
How sad.
Yes. But thank you.
Thank you very much.